Back on the nation at 5 with an alert in the national capital that the water levels at the Yamuna are rising. Overnight, yesterday, about 1,87,000 cusecs of water was released from the Hatnikund barrage. Now, we are given to understand there is more water that's going to be released just sometime around even as we speak. And that is going to have an effect with water levels really rising. Already the mark is just about the danger mark, and you can see even as the camera was picking up those pictures, the water levels were consistently and steadily rising. So it is going up, and these are the visuals. I've got Anshul joining us live, but the Delhi LG Vinay Saxena has also tweeted, and he said यमुना के जलग्रहण क्षेत्र में भारी बारिश के कारण हथनी कुंड से छोड़ा गया पानी आज शाम दिल्ली पहुंचने की संभावना है। नदी खतरे के निशान से ऊपर जा सकती है। प्रशासन सुरक्षा की दृष्टि से जरूरी कदम उठा रहा है। मेरी दिल्ली वासियों से अपील है कि यमुना में प्रवेश ना करें और सावधानी बरतें। Anshul, whereabouts are you, and have they started evacuating people who are living on the banks?
So yes, Anand, I'm currently standing at the Iron Bridge in the national capital, where I'll ask my camera person Rahul Malhotra to show in the visuals that people are still residing over here. These people will be moved in the next few hours, is what we are being told by the officials as of now. These are the huts that have been created here by the people, and the water level has risen suddenly over the last few days. And if you could see in the visuals, these are the gauges that have been put in place over here. This is the gauge that predicts the 206-meter mark over here at Yamuna. Officials are predicting that by tomorrow, in approximately 24 hours, the water level is going to reach till here, which means another meter of water will be reaching here on the banks of Yamuna. When I reached here, Anand, just a few minutes ago, approximately a half an hour ago, the water level was actually behind this point. This is the gauge which indicates that the water level has crossed the 205.5 meter mark now. Initially, at the update that we got at around 4 p.m. was that the water level had crossed the danger level, which was 205.3 meters. But currently, the water level has crossed to 205.50 meters as well. And in the next 24 hours, the water is going to continue. And in the next 24 hours, we are going to see it cross the 206 meter barrage as well. What we are also being told that
Anshul, I'm just going to request the visuals that you had sent a short while ago had shown that very same mark with 205.8 meters. There they go, 205.518 meters. That you are saying is already now covered. So in the last 15 to 20 minutes or half an hour itself, the water level has risen. This 205.518 meter, this is an earlier visual, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to ask Anshul to show how it looks now. So this is how it looked about 15-20 minutes ago. Now, Anshul, how does that mark look? Is that already underwater?
I'll just move out of the frame and ask my camera person to show you in the visuals over here. The mark that we just showed our visuals just a few minutes ago, that mark is completely inundated in the water right now. Approximately a meter of water is going to rise in the next 24 hours. But the good news is what the officials are telling us right now is that we are going to see the water level receding if no more rains happen on the hills, and the Hatnikund dam that is there, that does not release any more water. That is the caveat that has been attached to it as of now. But yes, the water level is increasing with every movement as we speak, and in the next few minutes we are going to see the water level crossing the 205 meter mark very clearly. As of now, you can see the visual that I am bringing to you. If the visual could get a bit more clearer. So if the water is continuously
so even as we speak, the water levels are steadily rising. So clearly there has been water released, huge amounts of water that's been released from the Hatnikund barrage, and it's all coming up, and the water levels at the Yamuna will rise in the national capital. So anybody in and around the Yamuna, please, you have to be careful. The alert has been already issued. We got big news coming through on the crypto scam and the entire crypto issue. As the crackdown on groups or platforms that have been misusing cryptocurrency continues, this is the latest. The Enforcement Directorate has conducted searches at various premises of Messrs. Yellow Tune Technologies Private Limited in Bengaluru, and has issued a freezing order to freeze its bank balances, payment gateway balances, and crypto balance of Flipbolt cryptocurrency exchange, totaling 370 crore of assets. We've got Ashish Merishi joining us with more details. Yes, Ashish.
So, Anand, basically, what the Enforcement Directorate has found, that if you remember, there were certain companies, NBFCs, under investigation These NBFCs were basically, they were basically using the license of defunct NBFCs, and they were operating illegally because the funds source was basically China. So the RBI did not give them permission. But when the crackdown began, and when they realized that the enforcement directorate is coming to knock their door, they basically transferred all their assets using crypto exchanges. So here, what we are seeing is that there is a company called Yamuna Technologies, and the company called Flipwall Technologies. These two companies helped in siphoning off of funds to the tune of 370 crore rupees, and these include funds which were deposited by 23 NBFCs, which were basically accused NBFCs as well, who were a part of sending this money. So ultimately, it was basically the Chinese who were operating it. The entire NBFCs, they charged huge amount of money, cheated Indians, and finally they have taken away. Huge amount of money out of India. So here,
right. So in this case also, are there Chinese nationals involved, and were they all? Did they register under fake names? And
yes.
This cannot have been possible unless there were local people involved. Is there the involvement of company secretaries, CAs, which is also now being investigated?
So here, Alex and Kaiji, we don't know the real names. That is what even the enforcement directorate is saying. But interestingly, these people left in the month of December 2020. And then further used certain Indians who were basically hired as directors. They were dummy directors. And finally, what we're seeing here is that, a huge amount of money was siphoned out of India. And here, the company that we're talking about, the company Flipwall Crypto Exchange, their assets have been frozen by the enforcement directorate to the tune of around 370 crores. This basically is money which is lying in the pool accounts and in the crypto assets, in the form of crypto assets as well. So here, money with the payment gateways, payment at crypto assets, all this is basically what we are seeing here.
Right. Thank you for your inputs, Ashish. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen. So the crypto scam continues to blow, and there are now freezing and crackdown by the enforcement directorate. Movable assets worth nearly 370 crore have right now been frozen and taken control of because the scam by these two outfits started by two Chinese nationals amounted to nearly 370 crore rupees. So the crackdown happening in Bengaluru at the moment. Now moving on to the other big story, and this comes from neighboring Kerala, not Karnataka, but in Kerala, where the former Kerala minister, KT Jalil, sparking off a huge row with his remark on POJK, which he termed as Azad. He actually called it by the name that the Pakistanis want to give as they push their international narrative, sitting on sovereign Indian territory, occupying that territory, and therefore trying to push a narrative that they have actually freed Kashmir. But he said that he not only used the term, but he also turned around and said that the Pakistan government and the Pakistan establishment does not have or does not interfere in the affairs of POK and POJK. Now, CNN News 18 is getting you a ground check, a reality check of what's happening in the region, where there are massive protests and civil unrest against not just the Pakistani establishment, but also with the military, with the locals demanding not just constitutional status, but the exit of the Pakistani army from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So that's the visuals that we are getting you, the ground reality, and perhaps that's what Mr. KT Jalil needs to be apprised of. Neetu Raghukumar joining us. Neetu, has there been a clarification by KT Jalil? 1, 2, does the entire left agree with KT Jalil?
There has no clarification come in yet from KT Jalil. We have been trying to get in touch with him right from the time his Facebook post. He has posted this in his Facebook account. But so far, no clarification yet. As we know, Jalil is an independent MLA supported by the CPM and the LDF. So what we are understanding so far is that the CPM is really distancing itself from this, because when we posed this question to CPIM State Secretary Kodiyeri Balakrishnan, what he said was that, this person, he did not go through this Facebook post. Only after going through that, he can react on this. LDF convener E.P. Jayarajan also commented on similar lines, stating that you should actually ask Jalil, because he doesn't know what Jalil has said, and the comment has to come from Jalil. And if you want to know the party's position, you should speak to the central leader. So here the CPM is trying to kind of distance themselves from this. They are not really getting into it. But definitely this is a huge controversy that has sparked after this comment from Jalil.
Pakistan does not have administrational power, and that POJK, there is a separate military and police. That's the kind of narrative Mr. KT Jalil has been caught talking about. But that's exactly what the Pakistanis want the world to believe. The story is totally different. Just listen in to the calls that are coming from down on ground in Pak-occupied Jammu Kashmir, ladies and gentlemen. These are the visuals that we have accessed from Muzaffarabad.
कि आज जो लोग सूरत का रहे दी जाती है, बाकी टैक्स लिए जाते हैं और बिजली बंद करके हमें सताया जाता है। इन चीजों के खिलाफ हम इलाज का जो हामी है, इलाज का जो हामी है, इलाज का जो हामी है,
I have Alok Bansal ji, Director India Foundation, joining us. Alok ji, ये जो दहशतगर्दी है, इसके पीछे वर्दी है. This is something which they have been chanting for years now, wanting the Pakistani army out of Pak-occupied Jammu Kashmir. How can leaders like KT Jalil come out and not just term this as Azad, but say that there is no involvement of the Pakistani administration or that this region has its own military?
I think Mr. Jalil is grossly ignorant actually of the realities, and there is no doubt that this particular area is nothing but a colony of Pakistan and Pakistan's administration. It does have a facade of so-called independence because Pakistan terms it AJK, but it is actually POJK. And what is more important is at this point of time as we talk, there is huge discontentment in this area, Mirpur, Muzaffarabad, of POJK, where people are protesting against an attempt by Pakistan to take away whatever little facade of autonomy they had by way of 15th Amendment. As regards Mr. Jalil's statement is concerned, the region has never had its own armed forces and it's been under occupation of Pakistan Army, which camps exist all along the line of control. People have been protesting against it. But they had a facade, like this area has a president and a prime minister and a chief justice and a Supreme Court. But even this facade is being taken away because now the proposed 15th Amendment wants to virtually bring in Pakistan's prime minister as a colonial administration. And there's a huge protest as of now at this point of time going on in this particular part where people are protesting imposition of taxes on fuel, etc., without these people having any rights, having taken away their all property, etc., which is across border. So there is huge protest. Protest is surprisingly for the first time joined by all political parties in this part of the world, that is POJK in Mirpur, Muzaffarabad. All political parties have joined in and are protesting against Pakistan's attempts to occupy this region. But as I said, even though Pakistan wants the world to believe it is AJK, but it is nothing but a facade. In fact, in the past, we have seen that the presidents of so-called AJK have been taken straight from office and put into the jail. So that much of autonomy or so-called independence they have. They are actually worse than a colony. The Pakistani rulers, as and they feel like, decide who should be the president and who should be removed from there. And Kashmir Affairs, the Department of Kashmir Affairs, which exists in Islamabad, virtually controls the administration of this particular area. And I think Mr. Jalil's statement stems from gross ignorance about this particular area.
Now, the other aspect is not just ignorance. This also feeds into a particular narrative. So are they deliberately pushing out this narrative? Or are they trying to say that if they use this narrative, they can actually, curry get closer to a particular group section within Kerala? Why would the left want to make a statement like this? And that too, that also impinges on the sovereignty of our country, Alok Bansalji. There are visuals galore. Every other day, there are huge protests that are happening in POJK at this point in time, at various levels for various reasons. Even basic civic amenities are not being given. This place was treated like so poorly that even during COVID, they had used masks, used syringes, used medical equipment, which the chief doctor of that region rejected. That's how the people have been treated.
See, as far as the area is concerned, as I said, they have not been provided even the basic amenities. As I said, this area is used by Pakistani army and Pakistani administration as a colony. In fact, every movement, everything is controlled by the Pakistani army, which harbors terrorists in its camps and actually pushes them across the line of control. In fact, there have been numerous occasions when the local residents have protested against Pakistan, saying that please get us from here so that we can live in peace, because they realize that these people are indulging in and supporting acts of terrorism, which actually then invites reprisals from the Indian armed forces. And they have been protesting. There have been protests in Neelam Valley. There have been protests in different parts. People have been picked by the Pakistani armed forces because they are not permitted to go close to armed forces, Pakistani armed forces installations where terrorists are housed and prepared to be launched across line of control. Now, as far as Mr. Jalil's motivation is concerned, I am not in a position to comment on it. I only hope that it is not an anti-national agenda that he's trying to pursue at the behest of powers that are inimical to the interests of India. I only hope that his statement stemmed from gross ignorance and not from any deliberate anti-India agenda. I think it is important that the government of Kerala should come out with a statement categorically condemning the statement of Mr. Jalil and dissociating themselves from this sort of a malicious propaganda. I think the left front should come out categorically, because they must clarify their position as to how they perceive this.
Correct me if I am wrong, Alokji. Correct me if I am wrong, Alokji. The left was in parliament when the parliament unanimously passed a resolution that POJK is sovereign Indian territory, and the BJP was not in power at that time. The parliament together collectively passed this not once, multiple times this resolution has been passed.
There is no doubt about it, and I think that's why I feel it is incumbent upon the left front government to condemn this sort of a statement, dissociate themselves, and come out with a clear-cut, unambiguous condemnation of this statement and clarify that as far as we are concerned, that particular territory is Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, which is under the Pakistan Army's jackboot and is being treated as a colony by the administrators from Islamabad and Rawalpindi. And Mr. Jalil's statement is totally false. I think this is the least which I think the citizens of this country expect from a state government in Kerala.
Well, Alok Bansalji, thank you. Thank you for your inputs on this. Even as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, there has been a rabid run of fanaticism, and a 62-year-old Ahmadi has been killed by rabid fanatics who owe their allegiance to the Tehreek-e-Labbaik and Khadim Rizvi. Those details also coming through the fore. We'll share those very soon here on CNN News 18. For the moment, taking a very, very short break.